it all starts with the song. Let's make sure that we're really, really clear on that. It all starts with the music. Major labels have a tendency to screw up everything because they're probably not looking at it the way that you and I are looking at it, Adam. They're probably looking at it from a boardroom and market share. It's really important for me to give back on a business that's really, really been good to me over the years. Listen, in this business today, Adam, people have the attention span of a fruit fly, okay? It's just, be really careful with AI and your music because there's more and more technology detecting it. That's the feeling that got me into this business, and I'm still sitting here 40 some odd years later.
Welcome to the Sound Centric podcast. I am your host, Adam Dash, and today we are joined by an incredible person who has experience working at record labels like Columbia, Universal, Interscope, SMC Recordings, and has worked and promoted artists such as Michael Jackson, oh my God, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Killer Mike, Guns N' Roses, and is now the chairman of Intercept Music, a platform that is really changing the way I've looked at music distribution as someone who's used DistroKid in the past. It helps manage an artist who uses a different distribution platform. Looking more into Intercept and what they offer has been incredible. But Ralph, welcome to the platform.
Adam, thank you. It's an honor to be here and a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
So I was saying in another interview that obviously you are years into this and have such a passion for music. And there was a point where you said music was becoming a bummer. And that's when you kind of decided to make a little pivot into what you are doing now. But take me through that point, because I've noticed that people tend, if they're not a huge music fan, what they listen to in high school tends to be what they listen to the rest of their lives. And then there's people like us where finding new music is the best feeling ever. So what got you to that point where you're like, this isn't really fun anymore, and led to the pivot?
Well, I was promoting records, and I had promoted records most of my life. And there was some really good times along the way, and then there were some difficult times. I got caught up in some stuff in the 80s, but what it wound up happening is it was like, let's make a deal, okay, to get a record played and promoted and put on a radio station. It was like, let's make a deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the record. It was about who could get what. Mm-hmm. And when I say that with respect to legal payola.
Yeah.
Because that's really what it was. So
Yeah.
if a radio station decided they wanted to work with an independent promoter, they would give them an exclusive, and that independent promoter would have to provide a certain amount of money a year for the radio station to use for their own marketing. Maybe it's t-shirts, maybe it was gas cards if gas prices were high, whatever that was. And when it got to that point, I said to myself, what the hell am I doing here? What am I doing? I didn't get in this, to play Let's Make a Deal. I got in this because of the love of music. I got into it because of breaking new music, because listening to something in my office and going, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I could recall when Hammer and his gangster brother came up to my office in San Francisco and they played me a track that they were doing a Beatles remake. I go, that's sacrilegious, bro. I wouldn't put that one away. And then I wouldn't put that one out, and he played me Can't Touch This, and I went, that's the one, and the rest was history. But I got into it for that. When you started playing Let's Make a Deal with the radio stations, and that was it for me.
Yeah, and I love how you touched on like that feeling of finding a new artist. There's an artist that dropped an album today named Q, and I got so excited. I texted about 8 different people, please listen to this album, and I've tweeted it out, and that feeling is like the resurgence of why I love music, especially also seeing live shows gives me that resurgent feeling.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that happened to me yesterday. I'm in Mexico City, and we have a Latin division. We do really, really well. It's a global company, and I bounce back and forth between San Francisco and Mexico City. So I had a call, and we have a general manager here in Mexico, and he set up a meeting for me with this real producers and writers and label, Cosmos and Bobo is what they're called. And they have a new project and it reminds me of kind of it was his. He's a very famous producer. Produced Talia, big artist, right?
Yeah.
But his son produced this punk record, Mexican punk record. And the artist that they did it with, the artist's name is Misa Sinfonia. Never heard of him before. This guy's socials are through the roof, in the millions.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and he plays me the record and he shows me the video. And then that tingling feeling comes. And I'm
Yeah.
sitting there thinking to myself, at my age, that's what gets me off. That's
Yeah.
what turns me on. That's the feeling that got me into this business, and I'm still sitting here 40 some odd years later.
I'm curious for you, because in this day and age where the term industry plant is thrown out a lot, and there's a lot of artists, especially in hip hop, where they'll have one big song and they'll go on a huge tour and not sell too well because it's only one song. So, how do you, for your own personal taste, differentiate between someone who can make a good song and someone who's that complete artist who it's like, oh, there's a brand around this, there's a career in this?
Yeah, yeah. It's believe it or not, there's it all starts with the song. Let's make sure that we're
Yeah.
really, really clear on that. It all starts with the music. I've been
Yeah.
involved in promotion of many, many records, and I've had guys that got some girl that wanted to be a superstar and they're millionaires and thought that they could buy their way into it. It doesn't
Yeah.
work. If the music's not there, it's just not there. And you know
Yeah.
what? It has to resonate with people, right? It's got to touch people in a certain way, whether it's the rhythm, the sound, the feeling,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It starts with the song. But then today, the social media has become such an important part
Mm-hmm.
of everything an artist does.
Yeah.
My company does, and we'll get into that maybe a little bit later. We
Yeah.
provide some tools to help you with your socials so you can, stay current with them. And we're using AI for some of that stuff. Not AI for
Mm-hmm.
music, but AI for some marketing
Yeah.
tools. But your socials are they're your starting point, right? And when you've got millions of releases a month, what is it? Something like 2 or 3 million coming out on
Yeah. I
Spotify
saw
every month.
Spotify gets 4,000 new songs an hour.
Yeah, I mean, how do you rise above the noise on that, Adam? You got to
Yeah.
you've got to A, have the great song, and B, you've got to start. You have to have some marketing money, and you have to
Yeah.
put something aside. But having said that, you have to do it intelligently.
Yes.
And you have to know where you are at the time and then where you should invest a little bit of money to take you to the next step, to the next level.
Yeah. I saw a stat that said, here, I have it written down 29,253 artists have clocked a million to 10 million audio streams. That's an increase of 5% from the same time last year. So we're saying, I feel like we're kind of in the era where it's more niche artists than superstars rising to the top. And I know your website says we make it easy so you can focus on the music. And I have a lot of music friends who go back and forth to debate. Like I'm an artist. I don't want to be a content creator. On the other hand, I look at it as your marketing can be another way to show your creativity outside of music. And I think some of my favorite artists do that in such a cool way. But where do you stand on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, back to your earlier point, um, I think we're hovering around 48 or 49% of the music today being consumed is independent.
Yeah,
When
it's
we
amazing.
started this company, it was somewhere around 18, 19.
Yeah, the
So
access
this
is just
is the
there now.
future.
Yeah,
So independent artists and labels have half the market share of all the music being consumed right now,
yeah,
basically. So some of the things that I think that an artist it shouldn't have to be posting every day. One of the things that we created in our platform was a scheduling and using AI to help you
Yeah,
create some posts and
I love
also to
that.
create a marketing plan, right? So the marketing plan, AI will take, we've programmed the AI, it will take, your information. I have 10,000 Spotify monthly listeners. I have 10,000 Instagram followers and whatever the amount of TikTok. You plug that all in, and then
Yeah.
it'll come out and tell you, well, you should do a little bit of advertising over here. We'll do a little bit of playlisting over here. And it'll do it based on where you are in your career rather than something that's unrealistic.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that AI is not meant to take the place of the creative, but to take the end that's make your life more efficient so you have more time to be creative. And so you don't have to think, what do I have to post today? It gives you that. And I do that for this podcast. I use a program called Opus Pro that if I upload the whole podcast, it gives me 30 clips from the podcast with text. And I'm like, okay, now I know what to post each day versus me going
Wow.
in, seeing what's best.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And we kind of do something similar. So we have a company that we partnered with and that we've licensed to software that you could schedule all of your posts for your socials, and the AI can help you create those posts. So
Yeah.
within about 2 or 3 hours, you could probably do about a month's post. And you have the right, you have the ability to edit each one of them. So the
Yeah.
AI is just giving you the idea, but you could tweak it any way you want to do it. It's
Yeah,
pretty
it's like the same.
amazing.
It's the same thing for like school papers. The AI shouldn't write your school paper, but if you can help it outline your paper, so okay, paragraph one's going to be about this. That it just takes you that time, that planning, takes it out, shortens it, so you can be more efficient with the actual important part of the school project, which was writing the paper.
That's right. It's great. It's great. So used properly, I think it's a great tool.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where AI goes. I mean, we're seeing a lot of artists use it for the vocals. Not sure how I feel about
No,
that part about it.
no.
But when it comes to marketing, I know you guys were ranked top 10 as a platform for marketing. To
Correct.
you, because it is hard to go against the noise and there's artists posting, and I think it's easy for an artist to get burnt out when they see 200 views per post. On the other hand, you can look at that, if you're getting 200 views per post, that's 3 posts a day, that's 600 views a day. That's however many a week and a month. But it's easy to get burnt out. But like, what is your thought on how to go about marketing to get above that noise?
Well, I think that you're right. You can't overdo it because then it becomes a turnoff to people, right? So you have to be
Yeah.
really smart on how you do it. I'm not an expert on that, but we do have people that work for us that are social media marketing mavens, and they can guide you with what it is that you do. Here's what sets us apart. What I think is really important, because I'm not a technical guy. However,
Yeah.
I learned part of the tech business very early on working for a company called onradio.com back in the day in 2000, which we hosted the websites of every major radio station in the country. Was really cool. But what we've done here is we've with technology and transparency.
Yeah.
We have a platform that allows you, it's the most user friendly of anybody out there. I've had labels come to me that said, hey, I've got music on this platform, I've got music on that platform. When I saw your platform and how you've created something to help me manage my label, I moved everything from the other 3 distributors onto your
Yeah.
platform. And it's so sophisticated that when you do that, you can give your artist access to that platform, but the artist can only see what they're doing, not what
Yeah.
any of the other artists and your label are doing. So
Hmm.
it's really cool like that. We allow you to take total control of your project and of your career. We've positioned ourselves somewhere between a major and just a pure distributor.
Yeah.
So you can't just come on to Intercept Music and put out whatever track you want to. You have to submit it. We get back to you. We like to feel that we're the company that is kind of we're not A&R people, so we're not filtering what comes out. But
Yeah.
we're the company that is for the artist and the independent label that they're taking themselves a little bit more serious. We're
Yeah.
not the company to put your music out through if you want to show your mom you got a song on Spotify.
Yeah, I have friends who, and there's no, I mean, I'm a DistroKid user when I've released music, and I have friends who use those and CD Baby, and I think when they've experienced the back end issues, it's like getting through to a human to actually help you, whether someone put you on a AI playlist that got botted, so then they're threatening to take all of your streams away, and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa,
Big
that's not my
problem.
fault.
Yeah.
Or for some reason, I have an artist who changed his name from Andrew to Drew. So one platform didn't change it. And I think that's what you're saying, that when you get to that point where you're trying to take it more seriously, your platform's allowing for the actual human connection.
Well, yeah. Each artist and or label gets an account rep.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I was reading an article about Concord, which is an indie music group and has a distribution deal through UMG, and they just acquired STEM, which is an indie distributor. And I follow this guy named Brian Sizuk, who's a great music industry professional. He runs AudioMac, and he was saying it's harder now than ever, like the ground between what's independent and what's a major label. So to you in 2025, what is an independent artist and what does it mean to be independent? Because a lot of these labels do have independent distributors and independent labels within their umbrella company.
Well, they kind of all do. I think Warner has ADA, right? And Sony
Yeah.
has Red, The Orchard, and
Yeah.
Universal. Universal had the one out of London. I can't remember the name of it right now, and they're the only one that's kind of abandoned it. But now that they bought Downtown, which owned
Yeah.
Fuga, they're kind of in that business. But what are they going to actually do with it? That's going to be an
Yeah.
interesting question. Not sure. On that STEM deal, that was really encouraging for companies like ours because, let's say you own your content and let's say you're buying content and that content has to go through a distributor.
Mm-hmm.
And if you own the distributor and you were direct, you could probably change your distribution fee from maybe 10 to 15% to 3 to 5%.
Because you own it
So
now.
maybe that's the move Concord's going to make because
Yeah.
maybe that's what STEM has. And STEM might be direct with the top five, with Amazon
Yeah.
and Spotify and Deezer or whatever other ones, right?
Yeah.
And so their fee that they're probably paying Universal 12 or 14 could drop down to 3 or 4 if they own the distribution company.
So you think these major label acquisitions are actually possibly helping the artists and the people who view themselves as currently independent? Because I think even I get confused sometimes. There's a lot of artists I look up to who talk about how independent they are, and then you find out like, oh, they're actually using a major label distributor. And I think there's always some type of blurry line between like, are you independent artist or are you kind of a major artist?
Major labels have a tendency to screw up everything because they're probably not looking at it the way that you and I are looking at it, Adam. They're probably looking at it from a boardroom and market share.
Yeah.
And that's and because they're probably concerned about stock price ultimately, right?
Yeah.
So I think that let's look at the Virgin Downtown deal. Virgin bought In Grooves, then they gutted In Grooves. Now they buy Downtown, which has Fuga, and they'll probably gut that too.
Yeah.
That's just what they do.
What's their goal of gutting these companies?
Market share. So
Okay.
they'll keep
Yeah.
they'll keep things be up above a certain threshold, and everything
Yeah.
else they'll probably just let go.
Yeah. And I heard in another interview you were talking about how some labels and you guys can use independent distribution as kind of a echo chamber to kind of grow artists and kind of it's like not really A&Ring, but like develop artists to see who's doing well and then you can bring them to a major. I just wanted you to explain that a little bit more because I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, because you ultimately there might be artists that you build yourself independently that you want to be with a major ultimately because of the resources that they have. Sometimes it's not necessarily just the financial resources, but maybe it's directors for videos and things like that that you couldn't, they wouldn't take your call because they're so busy with the ones that are
Yeah.
giving them most of the business. However, if that happens, Adam, and you've actually first of all, they're not even going to give you the time of day unless you have the socials.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. So if you built yourself to the point where they're interested,
Hmm.
you're going to get a much better deal than you would have got any other way. And it
Yeah.
could probably be a true joint venture, maybe a
Yeah.
50-50 deal.
And it's funny. I was talking to an artist the other day who had an interesting meeting with a label where they offered them a deal where it said that if you hear from any other label, we're allowed to read the contract and match it. And they weren't doing that to like really match it. They were doing it to read the legal writing of another record label. And I thought that was an interesting, kind of a smart move by them to be like, what are these other record labels putting in there?
Well, we have things like that right now that we have done with, we call it matching rights. Now, we don't do it
Yeah.
just to read the other guy's contract,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we do it like, okay, so we have a couple of partnerships that we haven't really announced yet with majors.
Uh-huh.
One's a big K-pop company, and they will forward us content to incubate, develop for them. And, in that agreement, they have the right to take that back with matching
Yeah.
rights if somebody tries to buy it.
Yeah. And with streaming, that like artists don't really make that much of their money. If you're not a huge artist, you're not making a lot of your money from streaming. Touring seems to be even getting harder to make money off of touring. So it kind of leaves syncing, getting your sync rights, and also merchandise being so important. And I know your platform has a big thing with Shopify and merchandise, but to you now, for an artist who's growing, what is that way to make an income where you're like, oh, maybe I can quit my job and make a living off of this one day?
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because you're right. The sync thing, we offer that as well. But the
Hmm.
merch thing, if you back to your socials, if you have socials that you could be marketing your merchandise on your socials, I mean, that's just a win-win. Can't remember
Yeah.
the number, but I think it's 200, 300 t-shirts. Well, we could do the math. I think you can 100 t-shirts. You probably make $3,000-4,000, and I think you make about in America about $3,500 for a million streams.
Yeah.
Yeah, merch is
It's
key,
boring.
and you know what? It's and you're marketing yourself, and there's no upfront money. It's print on demand, and you make an our deal. We try to be really fair.
Yeah.
Listen, it was really important to me as we spoke before we even started. Before
Yeah.
we got on this, it's really important for me to give back on a business that's really been good to me over the years. And I'm really
Yeah.
happy that we can do this. So on that merch thing, the artist gets 30% of the gross right off the top.
Hmm. It's awesome. And I was to cite Brian Sizuk again. He tweeted yesterday, and he's a great resource of posting like music industry tips. But he was saying more and more independent artists are losing money touring or just hoping to break even. And I wonder if you've experienced that from hearing from artists or talking to artists or just music industry people, why touring is at a point post COVID where it kind of looked was booming for a second, people going outside, why it's harder for these small artists to make money on touring.
You know that because a lot of them, if there's a band that's going out that's actually making money, and you want to dovetail on what that band is doing, you probably have to buy onto that tour. And
Yeah.
if you buy onto the tour, then you're paying all of your own expenses. You're paying your own van, your own sound guy, your own everything. And it's
Yeah.
costing you money to go out and hopefully that you gather enough followers or fans. And if you're, really good with your socials and sell merch that you can find more fans and get people to sign up and get their information. But
Yeah.
that happens at the major label too, at the major level too. I mean, like there could be a big tour, and if they want an opening band, if a label is trying to break a band, they're serious about it. They'll buy
Yeah.
onto that tour to open for that
It's
major act.
marketing. Because I saw an
Marketing.
artist named in Philadelphia, I saw an artist last week, Tommy Richmond, and he had a number one hit this past year, $1 Million Baby. That was all over. And I was a fan for him for a while, but he was also seemed to the outside world like, oh, is this an industry plan? Where did this guy pop up from? And I thought his team did a very interesting thing. Instead of doing a huge tour, which a lot of Billboard chart topping new artists will do, and it flops, quote unquote, he did 1,000 capacity rooms. And I got tickets for really cheap, and I left that concert an even bigger fan of him. And I think that's what artists are forgetting,
How
that when you see
clever
someone at a
how
show,
smart is that?
and
How
I thought it was
smart
so
is
smart
that?
because maybe sacrifice short-term money on doing a smaller tour, but he just made a way bigger fan of me. I took a bunch of friends who only knew the hit song. They left, listened to his album, and they're like, wait, this album's really good. And I think artists forget about the touring side, that although you might lose some short-term money, that's where you really make a fan for life.
That's where you make a fan, and that'll turn into streams. And then if you've got enough streams, you're making money from that. And then there's also something else called sound exchange, which there's performance money out there that could be really great that comes in long term, and then that helps your copyright. So and then it might get licensed for film and television. It all
Yeah.
is a part of the big picture.
Yeah, I've been always taught by my brothers. They're big on saying to spread your luck surface area, and that obviously luck is very important in this industry. But for luck to occur, you have to put yourself in the place for luck. You weren't lucky because your post blew up. You had to post it to begin with. So like just
Right.
doing the post is spreading that surface area of, oh, maybe this will
Right.
blow up. So is it luck that someone blew up, or maybe they were on a tour and they developed a niche audience that helped send it to a friend to send it to, that word of mouth type spread.
Exactly. And here's another thing that could happen today. Like you might think that you belong in breaking out in the Northeast in America, but somebody picks it up in Japan, and all of a sudden you blow up in Japan. You never even realized, you never even thought that it would resonate in Japan. And the next thing you know, somebody's sending you money to go over there and do a show.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the internet and what it is that we're doing today. You don't know where the next opportunity is going to come from. But if you don't put yourself out there and you have to really believe this is not, this isn't something that you can do part time.
Yeah.
This is something that has to come from within, and you'll go to any length to help build and grow your career.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned the cross the world thing, because I remember posting songs on SoundCloud and seeing, whoa, someone from Denmark's listening to my song. And I know there's certain artists who have noticed that they're from America. I think The Weeknd has huge numbers in Europe. So he tours Europe a lot because he's like, oh, a lot of my fans are in this area. And it's cool to see. And I know an artist named Brent Faiyaz. He's an independent artist. And he used the Spotify metric of superfans, which I think is like people who listen to your music every day for a month straight. And he knew those cities, I can do a bigger room because I have fans who are just a little bit more intense of fans that are willing to buy tickets. Maybe in Philadelphia, we do a 3,000 cap room. Boston, maybe we do 1,000.
Right. That's right. And that's being smart. And that's how
Yeah.
that is how you really take yourself to the next level. It's great.
And you work with artists at so many different levels. And I think artists ask a lot because we're all getting ahead of ourselves and we're like, oh, I have a couple streams. I need a manager or I need a lawyer. At what point do you think an artist should start developing a team? And what are the pieces early in an artist's career that actually the members they really need? Because maybe you don't need a publicist now because you have AI that can help write a press release. You join your platform, you have AI that can help with some things.
Absolutely.
But you might need, what members do you need early in your career, do you think?
The first thing I would do is I would have some young, smart person that could help me build and develop my socials. That's what I would do.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the most fundamental thing that you can do today.
I hope Drew's listening to this because that's the kid who I manage. And I don't even consider myself a manager. I look at myself sometimes as like just helping him with the business end, as being like a resource of giving him ideas. Because I have
Sure.
older brothers who they're very big into newsletters. They love newsletters. My brother's a doctor. He does a healthcare newsletter. So they made me create one. So I told Drew we should start a newsletter because we can capture emails from that, because those are your real fans who are signing up for a newsletter. So trying to come up with creative ideas like that to use data and also have a better connection between you and your like diehard fans.
Yeah, that's great. All of that. And fan engagement, right? How do you resonate with your fans? How do you communicate with them? How do you,
Yeah.
they want to be a part of what it is that you're doing, right? How do you, maybe you get them to give you ideas on a new song. I don't know, but that
Yeah.
is so important. They want to know how you
So
live, what you
important.
do. Yeah.
I remember when I was 13, the rapper Logic, I'm like, it's my birthday. Can I get a shout out? And he tweeted back to me, like, happy birthday, Adam. And to 13-year-old me, I bought merchandise that day. That's $100 in his pocket. And all he did was tweet. And it's like
Yeah.
those small things you forget when because a lot of your audience is going to be like younger kids because that's who's discovering new music. And you forget that excitement feeling what you got when you're artist. And now it's easier than ever to actually have a conversation with your favorite artist, go in a live stream. Whoa, he like saw my song suggestion and it builds that up.
Yeah, it's great. I have a great little story I'll share with you. So I was in the car with my granddaughter, right? She was 15, she's 15, and
Yeah.
we were going to see her sister, and we flew to Salt Lake City. We were driving to Boise. We were in
Yeah.
that area, whatever we were doing. And she said to me, she goes, can I put my music on? And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, what am I going to have to listen to here,
Yeah.
right? So she puts in her, through the radio, she has her playlist, right? And it was all doo-wop. And I
Wow.
looked at her and I went, well, I don't get it. What do you know about doo-wop? Oh, I don't know. I just heard it and I liked it. And that's the advantage that you have
Yeah.
today that you didn't have before. People today, when they listen to music, when I was promoting records to stations when I was young and growing up, I was programmed to.
Yeah.
Today, if it's good and you like it, it winds up on your playlist. It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. It's not a genre. It's what you like, and I think that that's what creates all the opportunity today. There's
Yeah. And
just so
you don't need to spend $10 on a CD and pray to God you like that album anymore. You pay $10 a month and you've access to anything. I can click track one. If I like it, I'll click track two.
exactly. Yeah, it's great. It's really great.
I I asked my audience, which is a lot of independent artists who are rising artists, to ask, do you have any questions for an industry music professional like you? So I have a few outside questions that people hit me up with.
Sure.
So one person asked, you have everything, the catalog, the drive, the foundation, the audience, everything you need, the package is sealed. How do you find a legitimate publicist, A&R, and marketer? How do you determine what's a scam? And how do you even find these people legitimately? I know a bunch of people who've been hit with the fake people in their
Yeah,
DMs.
yeah. Well, look, let's just be crystal clear here. This is really no different than any business, right? They all
Yeah,
have their scammers, right? And
yeah,
people that are promising you the moon. They're, you know, I think with respect to a publicist, really a publicist today is somebody that has got a lot of experience with online marketing as well, because everything today is the
yeah,
blogs, and you've got to get somebody, well, like if you came with our company, we could help you with a social media campaign and you would use our social media person. If you
yeah,
came with us and said that you needed to find a publicist, we would help you find a publicist that we have
yeah.
vetted, that
It's a
is
real
not
person.
going to take advantage of the situation. It's a slippery slope. It's dangerous, and there's a lot of scammers out there. But I just think you have to look for references and follow those references, right? See what they've
Yeah.
done. Call people.
And your platform might have something like this. I think artists look at playlisting as like one of the biggest opportunities. That's a big deal to get it on
It
a
is.
playlist. So what is the best, this is a question from Drew, best approach for artists to take when trying to get on an editorial or on a Spotify and Apple playlist?
Okay, so let's right back to social media again. If you've
Yeah.
got numbers, and we will help you pitch, right, to get an order editorial playlisting. But we're not going to go pitch something on your behalf if it's got nothing going on for it. They really want to
Yeah.
see what you have happening. We're doing a couple of shows over here. Here's where our socials are. We have growth, and then and the music has to be good.
Yeah. Of course, it always goes
Uh,
back to that.
yeah.
And
Because
what
if
does
you
maybe,
think of Spotify, it's like the big radio station.
yeah,
And if you are in radio stations can't play records that are going to turn off their audience.
yeah. And you might not want to give the secrets away, but like, what's a good pitch look like? Is it better coming from the artists themselves or from the manager promoting their own artists?
Well, it should come from like your music company, your distributor.
Yeah.
I think pitch has got to not sound biased or hypey.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it's
I think
got
that's
to
a good thing.
got to be
I
straight
think
up.
Yeah, because I've received pitches and then sometimes they're really long, and you gotta understand there's a human on the other side of that, and it's like a giant paragraph, and you're like, I don't know if I'm reading all of that.
Yeah, listen, in this business today, Adam, people have the attention span of a fruit fly. Okay, it's just moving so quickly.
It's sometimes hard to internalize how you take in something. Then when you're sending something out, you're like, wait, would I want to read this if I was on the other end of this? And that takes some like understanding yourself and some taking a step back ability.
Great.
And here's another question for you as we're wrapping up. One person asked, and this goes to the short term lifespan of everything. With everyone complaining about content, what is the best type of content to do in your eyes? Is it full music videos? Is it a vertical content of a verse from a song? What to you is like, are music videos still important?
Well, from what I gather, and again, I'm not a digital marketing person,
Yeah.
but what if you have a video and you could use clips and assets from that video to use for other things, I think that that's really worthwhile. Back to fan engagement, people want to have a connection with the artist. And
Yeah.
I think the monetization of YouTube is really good today. I think they pay more than anybody. So I think that's a great asset to have.
And you've kind of gotten to this one, but this is another question from someone. As streaming continues to dominate, how can independent artists leverage their distribution to create multiple revenue streams beyond DSPs? So I guess beyond the streaming numbers. And we kind of talked about merchandise already. But what else could they do if maybe they're starting your platform or they're on a DistroKid, CD
Yeah,
Baby
well,
type?
it's merchandising, it's sync licensing, and obviously if you can perform, that's great as well.
Yeah.
But you know, really, if you want to get discovered today, you've got to have numbers in social media that are really respectable. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like, even if you were looking to ultimately get to a major, they have A&R people currently that are scanning the internet looking for artists with a lot of socials
Yeah.
and streams.
Yeah.
How do you
Of
get the
course.
streams? What comes first, the chicken or the egg? You got to have the socials.
And how does sync licensing, how do you even get that as an artist? If it's not a platform like you that's helping them do it, how, if you were just talking to an artist who's coming up, how would they even find that opportunity?
I mean, there might be somebody out there that they could pay to do it. They'd have to, somebody might charge them, and that
Yeah.
might be one of those things that you were referring to earlier that might not be the most kosher situation because people could charge for silly
Yeah.
things like that, and you know the chances of you getting anything, even if you had a company that had relationships, is very slim. And somebody that's just trying to send something out to somebody or saying, pay me and I'm going to send this out, that
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't do that.
And to kind of summarize all the things we talked about today, in that the importance of social media and how big of a deal that is, and having, I think organization kind of goes to that AI point we were talking about, how important to be organized with your rollout and your marketing, kind of having an actual release schedule for everything. But I guess the last question of the day, where do you see the industry going, and what would you say the biggest thing artists should take away from this? What should they have? What affairs should they have in order? What should they do?
Well, back to the original part, I love the idea of a plan and a rollout and a schedule, right?
Yeah.
And I like that you get a date and you work forward and then you work backward.
Mm-hmm.
It helps you organize. You can plug in certain things at certain times. I think that's really important to have a marketing plan of some sort, even if it's a limited marketing plan,
Yeah.
which is one of the things that our AI will do for you. I don't know going forward. I don't know. I think it's just,
we're
well, here's what I know. Music's not going away.
yes.
And uh, uh, it's going to be consumed. And we never thought that it would be consumed the way that it's being consumed right now. And the record companies have historically balked and fought new things. I mean, really, if you were a record
Yeah.
company and you had an opportunity to buy Napster back in the day, that might have been the smartest thing you did. Now, these record companies all own part of Spotify. They all own part of all of the other DSPs.
Yeah.
Uh, Music people, you will get paid. That's the most important thing. You will get paid for your music, and I think the music business in the last, can't even tell you how much it's grown, probably by billions and billions of
Yeah.
additional revenue from what it was before. They never thought. Can you imagine having that Sinatra catalog, that Beatles catalog, that Elvis
Yeah.
catalog that you were manufacturing, shipping, making jewel boxes, warehousing, drop shipping, taking returns back?
Crazy.
Now you're making money. Talk about making money while you sleep.
Yeah. It's
So
crazy.
I think there's just I think there's more opportunities now than there's ever been. Actually, honestly.
I think that's a great positive way to leave this episode off, because I think AI can seem so scary to a lot of people and what the future might hold, but just knowing that the creatives, I think, will flourish and there will be ways for them to stick out within the industry. And yeah, I'm excited to see.
I agree. One last thing, Adam,
Yeah.
for your fans and your followers, be really careful with AI and your music, because there's more and more technology detecting it. Be careful
Yeah.
with speeding things up, slowing things down, because you're right. If they catch you doing those things, you'll be finished and you won't get back on the platform.
Yeah. Well, Ralph, thank you so much for your time. And I want to give you a moment to just shout out, if you want to tell people where they can find the company, where they can find you, if there's anything special coming.
Yeah, thank you. It was really a pleasure. I love your enthusiasm, and I love your
Thank you.
knowledge and passion for all of this. I can see it. It comes through.
It's my favorite thing in the world.
Interceptmusic.com, just the way it sounds. And my name is Ralph Tashjian, and you could probably go on to info@interceptmusic.com and say, get a message to Ralph. I heard him on this podcast, and I'll get you an account rep, somebody to reach out and talk to you and see if we can help you out a little bit.
I love that. If you made it to the end of the episode, thank you. You can subscribe, please. My name is Adam-DASH_ on Twitter, Instagram, Soundcentric Music on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Make sure to sign up for the weekly newsletter I got coming out every Monday. You get to see more opinions from me, your favorite thing in the world. And
Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you, Ralph. And we shall see you guys next time.